The bell rang at Crestwood High, echoing through the long hallways like a warning for those who didn't belong. Among the rushing crowd of students, one girl walked slower than everyone else, Lina. She kept her head down, clutching her lunchbox like a secret. Her dark hair fell over her face, her round glasses barely staying in place. She wasn't ugly nor weak, but she had something that made her stand out. The quietness that bullies couldn't tolerate. She was new, transferred just 2 months ago, and already a target. The moment she refused to join their little games, the whispers started. Teacher's pet. Too good for us. The mute freak. It was always the same poison disguised as jokes. Lina wasn't silent because she was afraid. She was silent because she had promised someone she loved, her late father, that she'd never use violence again. Her father had been a martial arts instructor, one of the best in their town. He trained her since she was a child, not for competition, but for discipline and defense. But when he passed away in an accident 2 years ago, Lena hung up her gloves and swore she'd never fight again. Violence is never strength, he'd said. Control is. Those words lived in her heart like a locked weapon. But Crestwood High was a place where kindness was weakness and quietness was blood in the water. The bullies at Crestwood were led by a guy named Drew, a tall, loud-mouthed football player who thought his charm excused his cruelty. His friends Mason and Tyler were his echo. Whatever Drew said, they repeated louder and dumber. They liked to find people who wouldn't fight back. And Lena was their favorite new game. That day in the cafeteria, it started small. Lena sat at the far corner alone as usual, opening her lunchbox carefully. Inside were small, simple things. Homemade food that she liked, nothing fancy, but made with love by her mother. She had just taken the first bite when she heard it. The thump of boots, the laughter getting closer. She looked up and saw Drew and his crew swaggering toward her table. "Hey, quiet girl." Drew smirked, leaning his hand on the table, his shadow falling across her tray. "You always eat that boring stuff. You too good for the food here, huh?" Lena didn't answer. She just stared at her lunch, pretending he wasn't there. That made him mad. "I'm talking to you," he said louder, snatching one of her food containers. "What even is this?" "Homemade trash." He opened it, sniffed, and exaggerated a gag, making his friends laugh. "You eat this every day. No wonder you look like a zombie." Still, she said nothing. Her silence was her shield, but to them it was fuel. Tyler grabbed a soda can and poured it near her plate, soaking the table. Mason picked up a piece of chicken from his tray and waved it in front of her. "Simon, eat something real. Be normal for once." Lena looked up slowly, her eyes cold, but she still didn't say a word. Drew grinned wider. "You don't like our food? Too proud to touch it? Fine. Let's fix that." He grabbed a piece of greasy cafeteria meat and held it near her mouth. The entire cafeteria went silent, watching the scene unfold. Some kids filmed it with their phones, others just stared. "Eat it," Drew said. "Show us you're one of us." Lena's lips pressed together. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from restraint. The air around her seemed to tighten. Every muscle in her body screamed for release. She could hear her father's voice again, soft but firm. "Control is your true strength." She took a deep breath, trying to hold it in. "Leave me alone," she whispered finally, her voice barely audible. But Drew laughed. "Or what? You'll glare me to death. Eat it." He shoved the greasy food toward her face. It smeared across her cheek and fell into her lap. The whole table erupted in laughter. Her body went cold. Humiliation burned in her throat like fire. She stood up slowly, wiping her face with a napkin. "You think this is funny?" she asked quietly. The sudden sharpness in her tone made them pause for half a second, but then Drew stepped closer. "Yeah," he said. "I think it's hilarious." Something inside her broke. She remembered every moment she stayed silent while they mocked her. Every bruise she hid, every tear she wiped in the bathroom stall, and for the first time since her father's death, she let go. Her hand clenched, her breathing steadied. The cafeteria lights flickered slightly as if the air had changed. Drew opened his mouth to say something else, but he never got the chance. Lena moved so fast that the human eye barely caught it. Her right fist shot forward, connecting with his jaw in a single, perfect motion. A punch not fueled by rage, but by precision and purpose. The sound echoed through the cafeteria like a thunderclap. Drew's feet left the ground. He spun slightly, crashing backward into a nearby table with a groan. The laughter stopped instantly. Mason and Tyler froze in shock, staring at their leader sprawled out, eyes dazed. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The cafeteria was pure silence except for Drew's muffled groan. Lena's breathing was calm now, steady. Her hair fell over her face again, but this time she looked different. Collected, powerful, untouchable. She picked up her lunchbox, placed the lid back on, and said in a quiet, steady tone, "I warned you." Mason snapped out of his shock and took a step toward her. You just hit him!" he shouted. "You're dead." But the moment he raised his hand, Lena's eyes locked onto his movement. She stepped aside, grabbed his wrist, and twisted lightly, not enough to break but enough to make him yelp in pain. "Stop," she said firmly, "or you'll regret it." The crowd around them had started whispering, phones still up, recording everything. Someone shouted, "Holy crap, she knocked him out!" Another said, "That was one punch! Onin!" The principal's voice suddenly cut through the chaos, shouting from the doorway, "What is going on here?" Elena released Mason's wrist and turned slowly. The principal's face froze when she saw Drew lying unconscious on the floor, blood trickling from his lip. "In my office." Now, she snapped. But Lena didn't protest. She just picked up her bag and walked out calmly, as if nothing happened. Inside the office, things were tense. Drew was taken to the nurse, his jaw swollen and bruised. The principal sat across from Lena, disbelief written all over her face. "Lena, I saw the end of that, but what happened before?" Lena sat quietly, hands folded. "They were bullying me," she said simply. "They wouldn't stop." The principal sighed. "Violence is not the answer." Lena met her eyes. "Neither is silence." Outside, the rumor had already spread like wildfire. The quiet girl dropped Drew with one punch. "She's a fighter. She's dangerous." The same kids who mocked her yesterday now whispered her name in awe. Videos of the punch were already going viral among students. Slow motion replays, captions like, "Never mess with quiet girls." Lena didn't care. For the first time in months, she felt peace. Not because she fought, but because she stood up for herself. When she got home that evening, her mother was waiting by the door. "Lena, the school called," she said softly. "You hit someone?" Lena nodded. Her mother's expression was a mix of concern and sadness. "Your father wouldn't want you to." Lena interrupted gently. "I know, Mom, but I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because I had no choice." Her mother looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. "He'd be proud you remembered what he taught you," she finally said. Lena smiled faintly. "Control is strength," she whispered. That night, as she sat on her bed staring at the stars through her window, she knew this wasn't the end. Drew and his friends wouldn't let it go. The storm was coming, but she wasn't afraid anymore. The quiet girl was gone. What replaced her was calm, confident, and ready. In the darkness of her room, Lena whispered to herself, "I won't stay silent anymore."